So I was thinking, the coolest thing normally for me in terms of animes is a half this, half that. I mean, we see it in My Hero Academia with half cold, half fire with Todoroki. We see it in Dragon Ball with half Saiyan, half human, and I've done a plentiful amount of different types of half this, half that throughout my YouTube kind of journey here. And I was thinking, what would have happened if Tanjiro was actually half demon? We've seen, and the internet actually go crazy over this, when Tanjiro became a demon, it was absolutely insane. It was wild to see, because we've seen the journey of Tanjiro and everything he went through to save his sister, just to watch him fall into demonhood. But what if it actually started that way? What if Tanjiro from the very beginning was actually part demon? But this kind of takes some creative liberty, so let's talk about it. First off, Tanjiro would most likely have to not go to trade or sell charcoal. That would be the very beginning of it. Then after that would occur, I could see this going two different ways, really. And those two ways would include either with Nezuko or without Nezuko. And let me get into what I mean by that. Let's talk about the first scenario. The first scenario is Muzan arrives and decides that he wants to turn Tanjiro into a demon. But since something to do with his bloodline, and also on top of that, his consumption of maybe spider lily tea, at least that's the thought, or just, both of them combined, would actually change the process that he would go through as a demon. Think of it kind of like if you've ever played Baldur's Gate and the stopping of Ceremosis when you have the illithid in your brain. For those who haven't seen Baldur's Gate, you probably don't understand what I said at all, but let's just say it makes him part of a different creature and not necessarily a full-fledged creature. For those who know, I'm talking about mind flayers and not making you a full-fledged mind flayer. Now, with that said, it would be kind of the same premise. Tanjiro would be a half demon, half human hybrid, and it would all be because of his bloodline and also his consumption of Wisteria tea. At least that's the canon I would follow throughout this version. But also this version wouldn't have a Nezuko. Muzan would see no purpose in actually infecting Nezuko or just keeping her alive in general, so it would be literally only a Tanjiro that would live. Tanjiro would see, obviously, his whole family dead, but the part of him that is human would still follow along with doing the right thing. He would try to help or save some of his family members, but it was obvious that he can't really do much about it, so he leaves, and what else would occur? Well, for starters, he would definitely run into someone like Tomioka, and Tomioka would react very similar to how he reacted to Nezuko, but it would be kind of odd, because Tomioka can tell that this version of Tanjiro, or this person, doesn't seem to be fully demon, or doesn't seem to be a demon at all, because being a half demon makes him look a little bit different, and maybe he kind of has different markings, or his eyes are a little different, or maybe he has like veins popping out of his head a little bit more. But other than that, he looks relatively human, and with all the shade of the trees all around, he can see, or Tomioka can see, that he's not going to die from the sunlight nonetheless. I mean, there's shade everywhere. Nothing's gonna happen. And when he tries to actually attack Tanjiro initially, Tanjiro would fend himself decently well. Not super well or anything, he's not gonna go head to head with Tomioka, but his ability to think, smell the attack, and so on and so forth is a beneficial thing for him, and his ability as a demon would allow him to dodge and weave, basically what Tomioka is trying to do. Now, with all that said, Tomioka would end up not killing Tanjiro, in which Tanjiro would bring up the fact that he was more or less attacked and more or less kind of, it feels like, to be infected, showing a scratch on his neck that seems to be not fully entirely healed. Maybe that's the part of him that is still human, but it's still showing a mark. But it seems that his other injuries, the bruises and slashes that he got on his body from Tomioka, actually have healed up. It's just the slash or the scratch on his neck. Now, with that said, Tomioka would be in complete awe about this, and in this version, he would actually bring Tanjiro to Urokodaki himself, wanting to know what the hell is going on, because at the end of the day, he's never seen a human be a part demon, or he's never seen a demon act very similar to a human like what he's seeing right now. So, he decides to bring Tanjiro to Urokodaki, and that conversation goes exactly how you would think it would go. Nobody knows what's happening. Tanjiro is a very, very big anomaly, and they're just happy that he's not completely and utterly psychotic and trying to kill people. But there are still massive concerns for Tanjiro, still insane amounts of concerns. Will he die in the sunlight? Will he be killed? I mean, he is a part demon, at least that's what it seems like, but there's more human to him than anything. So what are they even supposed to do? Like, what is the approach here? In which Giyu would eventually bring up the fact that maybe it'd be for the best that they actually bring Tanjiro to the Hashira mansion to figure out what the hell is going on. But Urokodaki would bring up that the whole mansion is covered in Wisteria, and that there is a ton of Wisteria all around, so it would be pretty difficult to actually have Tanjiro go over there and it be completely safe. Now, with that said, we gotta test if Tanjiro is actually going to be okay around Wisteria, and that's the first thing kind of Urokodaki wants to do, and that would tell him more or less if he's immune to the sun. But that's also a scary prospect in itself, because they know how terrifying Muzan is, and if Muzan figures out how to basically be perfectly fine in the sun, it's gonna be a scary prospect for every single person. But with Tanjiro being part demon, maybe things are just different. There's just no way that it has to be fully and utterly the same. Maybe Muzan doesn't even know Tanjiro is alive. Yeah, in my opinion, maybe being a half demon would actually sever a connection to Muzan, and even Muzan wouldn't know or even know at all what is going on with Tanjiro. On top of him not being able to even control Tanjiro to the degree he wants to. So he has no idea Tanjiro is even alive, and that is a crazy thing. And frankly enough, maybe he wouldn't even understand that a half demon is even a possibility. Maybe it was an odd mixture of blood, but still, Muzan at this point wouldn't even know. So in my opinion, well, we'll see Tanjiro most likely be okay around the Wisteria trees, and eventually would lead them to the Hashira mansion. Now, this conversation of a born half demon seemingly, or this appearance of a half demon out of nowhere, tons of questions would happen. For starters, they would ask him if he was born this way. Obviously Tanjiro wasn't born this way. He was no half demon at the end of the day. But he would also speak about how and what occurred, how Muzan came in and actually more or less killed his whole family, turned him into a demon, but it actually didn't turn him into a demon. It turned him into a half demon, or at least that's what it seems. And everyone is confused by this. This has never happened. So what are they supposed to do? What's going on, and what are they supposed to kind of approach here? Now, I'll be honest, the Hashira would have no idea what to do with Tanjiro. And frankly, some of them would want him dead. It seems like a prospect that is scary, and at the end of the day, if Muzan gets a hold of him, it might be over. But at the same time, some of them believe, well, that he might be the key to actually defeating Muzan. A demon, a half demon in Tanjiro, maybe that will make him the strongest of them all, not only having the ability to use a breathing style, but also the ability to actually use a blood demon art. Maybe being half demon, half human makes him the strongest of them both. Maybe Tanjiro can eclipse his capabilities even faster than any other demon could as a full-blooded demon. but that's just a theory. And the training would begin for Tanjiro, and it's obvious that he would excel in everything. It would seem that his sword skills would be absolutely tremendous. He wouldn't need to sleep. He actually could eat regular food, and he would be able to consume things actually at a way higher intake than anyone else. Being able to learn breathing styles, learn techniques, learn how to wield swords, different types of swords, maybe different types of weapons, and so on and so forth. Tanjiro quickly would become an absolute lethal weapon, and it's obvious that he will be the key and he will be the ticket to defeating Muzan. Now, the interactions with Inosuke and Zenitsu, in my opinion, would not occur, because his time at the Hashira Mansion would just be too much to overtake, but Tanjiro would eventually face someone like Rui, and this would be the first time that Muzan is able to set eyes on him through the eyes of someone else. Someone he thought was dead, but is actually alive, but he still has no record of Tanjiro being in the sun. And that is something that will be terrifying for Muzan, because Tanjiro, he can be in the sun. In my opinion, a half demon, half human could conquer the sun way easier than anyone else. And if we go based off of the whole blue spider lily consumption through tea and say that Tanjiro consumed it, then there you go. Now we're dealing with a half demon, half human conquering the sun and now laying waste to demons that are of high caliber, demons of the 12 Kizuki, and that is a perfect thing for the Hashira. Now, how far does this go until Muzan realizes that this kid is actually a half demon and this kid has conquered the sun? Well, I think it would have to be the Akaza fight. Hands down, the Akaza fight would be the reason the reason that Muzan finds out that Tanjiro is not only a half demon, but maybe that he even conquered the sun. Because in my opinion, Tanjiro would be able to defeat Akaza, just not the degree you think it would happen. Rengoku and Tanjiro together, half demon, half human, and Rengoku being an elite Hashira, I think together, I know together they would be able to defeat him. But how do they defeat him? Tanjiro puts a sword, multiple swords maybe, through Akaza, drilling him into the ground, waiting until the sun comes alive. And Akaza would even remark that it seems that Tanjiro has a death wish in himself, because it's obvious that he has demon blood within him. He will burn up in the sun and die with him, and the hopes of the Hashira and the demon slayers will fall right beside him. But what Akaza doesn't know is that Tanjiro won't die to the sun rays, that Akaza will be the only one burning to dust. And once that occurs, Muzan now knows. Muzan now knows that Tanjiro has conquered the sun, and he needs Tanjiro now. So how does this actually go? How does this fight and this occurrence actually go? Well, I would say it could go one or two ways. And obviously, it could go one or two ways in terms of Tanjiro winning or Tanjiro losing. But I want to talk about it more specifically. Now, I could see Tanjiro going head to head with someone like Muzan, because we don't know how strong a half demon truly could be. Shoot, obviously in Dragon Ball, which, I mean, it's Dragon Ball, so it's hard to make this comparison in its totality. But in Dragon Ball, we've seen that half-breeds are insane in terms of potential. So I could intake the same kind of precedent where we have a half-breed, half-human, half-demon, have insane amounts of potential and insane amounts of strength. And throughout this time, well, he was training, he was getting stronger, he was getting better, faster, and all of the above. And you can say that Tanjiro could actually cut the demons down to size, but it really comes to question if the Hashira can keep up, especially with a lot of the things not going in their favor, and more specifically, not having the cure for Muzan. You could make the argument that maybe having Tanjiro there, the blood of Tanjiro could make for some sort of cure, but we don't know that for sure. We would use probably a lesser version of the cure in terms of Shinobu, and would that even make Muzan weak enough to defeat? Well, it really depends, and there's no statistical way of breaking that down, but at the end of the day, I would have to say that Muzan would most likely actually win. But I don't think he would win in the way that you may think. He's not going to win in the way of, oh, he gets Tanjiro and now he's going to conquer everything. I just don't think that would be the case. I think the Hashira are too strong, and I think they would put up a better fight than that. And I think Muzan would actually be cut down to size quite a bit. Now, with that said, does Tanjiro end up dying here? Probably. I could see Tanjiro ending up dead here, or dying in general. Or if he doesn't die, the Hashira would all die, but they would cut down the demons, the strongest demons, to size, and Tanjiro would be forced into more or less hiding so that Muzan couldn't have the capabilities of conquering the sun entirely. Now, I know we're 15 minutes in, and I'm sure you guys are wondering, what's the other version of this that I was talking about in the very beginning? Well, the other version obviously includes Nezuko. Now, this is a sketchy version because, in my opinion, if we had a half-demon Tanjiro and also a demon Nezuko, there's a lot of things that are kind of a bit out of Tanjiro's control. I do think that a lot of the things would go similar to the first version, but I do think that Nezuko actually being there makes for a lot of things to be very inconvenient, and maybe even Muzan being able to capitalize on the fact that Nezuko is a full demon, by the way, full demon, and be able to utilize her to conquer the sun. And this would be because he would learn that Tanjiro is a half demon far sooner, and would learn that Nezuko is also a demon, maybe not half demon, but he still has a connection to Nezuko and believes that Nezuko is 100% the key to conquering the sun before even she would technically conquer the sun in the first place. This would lead to some major complications, especially down the line, because at the end of the day, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do if Muzan actually comes early and gets a hold of Nezuko? Actually being able to take Nezuko and utilize her to conquer the sun for himself, or maybe even just utilize her in a demon army type of way. But actually, and ironically enough, that Nezuko being a demon in this version, in my opinion, would be a more difficult version for Tanjiro. Tanjiro on his own, being a half demon, has all of the possibilities, has conquering the sun, not dealing with Wisteria, and so on and so forth. But with Nezuko, there's a lot of things that they got to deal with, and kind of hope that she's completely out of the story. Literally, Tanjiro couldn't take her. If he takes her, and that's what would most likely occur, because Tomioka would not take both Nezuko and Tanjiro to the Hashira mansion. He would most likely just leave him for Urokodaki. And if they do that, Tanjiro's going to have to do the final selection and do all of that. And if he takes Nezuko and Muzan finds out what both of them are, finds out that one's a half demon, one's a demon, well, it would be obvious to Muzan, with his 1,000-year experience and knowledge, that Nezuko will be the key, or both of them will be the key, putting them in an absolute horrible scenario. Maybe one that Muzan himself thinks that, hey, I can kill everybody in this place, this city, and it would be worth it for me because I would still have Tanjiro and Nezuko. And that would put them in a massive disadvantage. A massive disadvantage leading to maybe even the death of Tanjiro, maybe even the complete control over a first come of a half demon, and also maybe the death of either Nezuko or the complete control over Nezuko, and eventually Muzan conquering the sun. So ironically enough, giving Nezuko a power boost, quote unquote, with the whole demon thing, with her becoming a demon, would be a detriment for Tanjiro. And of course, this is my opinion, and maybe some of you guys have your own takes on this and how you would approach it, but this is what I believe would occur. Now, I would love to hear how you would approach what if Tanjiro was a half demon. Of course, I'm sure some of you maybe would have done it where Tanjiro was somehow born with Muzan as his father, but I have some plans with Muzan being or raising Tanjiro, quote unquote, for another video, so I was going to kind of keep this away from that regard. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, leave a comment about what you think, leave a like, leave a sub, and all that good stuff, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.